You failed, and you're still here. That's not weakness. That's exactly where I need you. Most people think I speak to winners, to Arjuna standing tall, bow raised, ready. But that's not when I spoke. I spoke when he collapsed, when he dropped his weapons, when he said, I cannot do this. What is the point of any of this? That is when I came close. So before you close this, I want to ask you something. Not what you lost, not how far you fell. I want to ask, do you know why you're still fighting? Because if you don't, you've been fighting for the wrong reason. And that wrong reason is what broke you. Let me tell you what fighting is actually for. Arjuna looked at the battlefield and saw his cousins, his teachers, his family. He said, if I win, what do I win? Ashes. He was calculating outcomes. He was measuring the cost of victory and deciding it wasn't worth it. And I understood him, because every human does this. You reach a point where the math stops working, where what you might gain no longer justifies what you've already lost, and you stop. But here's what Arjuna didn't understand yet. Here's what I had to tell him. You were never fighting for the outcome. You were fighting because it is your nature to fight. Because this moment, this difficulty, this specific battlefield that life handed you was always yours. Not by accident, not by bad luck, by design. I don't give a battlefield to someone who cannot stand on it. I give it to someone who was made for it, even if they don't know that yet. Especially if they don't know that yet. The question is not whether you will survive this. You will. The question is who you will be when you do. There's something I told Arjuna that people read quickly and think they understand. Karmanye vadikaraste. You have a right to your actions, not to the fruits of your actions. Everyone nods. Everyone says, yes, yes, detachment, I know. But they don't know. Because the moment life hits them, the moment the project fails, the relationship ends, the years of work produce nothing, they break. Because they were secretly attached the whole time. They were doing the work, yes, but they were doing it for the result. And when the result didn't come, the work felt like a lie. It wasn't a lie, it was preparation. Everything you built that didn't work, every attempt that collapsed, was not wasted. I don't waste anything. I am not careless with human effort. What looked like failure from where you stood was construction from where I stood. You couldn't see it because you were inside it. You never see the building when you're laying the foundation. You just feel the weight. But here's what I need you to sit with, because this is the part that will either change everything or mean nothing, depending on whether you actually hear it. The fight is not a path to something better. The fight is the point. Not as punishment, not as a test you have to pass before the good part starts. The engagement itself, the showing up, the trying, the refusing to stop even when every reason to continue has disappeared, that is where I am. That is where we meet. I don't live in your victories. I live in your persistence. In the moments where there is no logical reason to keep going, and you keep going anyway. That's where you find me. Arjuna wanted certainty before he moved. He wanted to know it would be worth it. And I told him, I cannot give you that. No one can give you that. Certainty is not a gift I offer. What I offer is this. Act. Do the next right thing. Do it fully. Do it without holding back, without protecting yourself from the possibility of losing again. And then release it. Not because it doesn't matter, but because your attachment to the outcome is the very thing that makes you weak. It splits your energy. Half of you is fighting. Half of you is calculating whether this is still worth it. You cannot fight like that. You cannot live like that. Let go of the fruit. Keep swinging. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Krishna, you don't know what I've lost. You don't know how many times I've tried. You don't know how tired I am. I know. I watched Arjuna lose everything before he won anything. I watched the Pandavas spend 13 years in exile, not for a sin they committed, but because the world is not always fair, and I never promised it would be. Fairness is a human invention. Life is not fair, but life is purposeful, and those are not the same thing. The exile wasn't punishment, it was construction. Every year in the forest was building something in them that a palace could never build. You don't learn stillness in comfort. You don't learn faith when everything is going well. Faith built in easy times is decoration. Faith built in the forest. Faith built after the failure, after the loss, after the collapse. That is the real thing. That is what lasts. That is what carries you through what's coming next. And something is coming next. I want you to know that. Not because I'm offering false comfort, but because this is simply how it works. Seasons change. Not because you deserve spring, not because you earned it, but because that is the nature of things. Winter is not permanent, neither is this. The question is not whether things will shift. They will. The question is what you will have built inside yourself by the time they do. Because here's the part most people miss. When things turn, and they will turn, you won't be celebrating the outcome. You'll be someone different. The you that came through this will not be the you that started it. And that person, that version of you on the other side, they are the reason I put you here. They are the answer to the question you've been asking. What is this for? This is what it's for. Not the result. The person the result requires you to become. So I'm not asking you to be optimistic. Optimism is cheap. I'm asking you to be precise. To do the work that is in front of you today, not the work you wish you were doing, not the work you'll do when things get easier, the work that is yours right now. Small maybe, hard probably, uncertain definitely. Do it anyway. And then tomorrow, do it again. Not because it will definitely work, but because you were made for this specific struggle. Because I do not make mistakes. Because the version of you that keeps fighting even now, even here, even after everything, is exactly who needs to exist in this world. You asked why you should keep going. That's why. Now pick it back up.